move the attention to the barbecue side, so it's very good. So I would like to start by thanking Jane. Thank you very much for inviting me to this, organizing this event. I feel very honored about sharing this stage with the inspiring and very interesting presentation that we're seeing. So in the next few minutes, I would like to share with you about people and organization and about agile organization. So as you may know, agile organization is kind of a trend when it comes to organizational paradigm today. But this morning, Jane, you mentioned too about the real people, and it resonates in me because my angle today is how the agile organization works for real people and a real sourcing company like Kiabi. So we have tried to transform this agile concept into action items to help us improve our efficiency and our KPIs. So this is what I would like to share with you. Of course, I don't feel too special. I know that most of you and your companies are probably in the same path that we are. So let me start with the reason of why to start or launch this transformational project that it has been around for around 2 years in our company, and some of the inspiration that we got when we started to think about it. So why changing organization is very, we had some certainties about some business was coming to us, so new big projects, new openings, B2B model. So we were certain that we were going to face with challenges, new countries, new projects, new business models. So we knew that for sure. But we also, on the right side, we knew that there are much more uncertainty coming to us because we are facing an increasingly complex landscape when it comes to supply chain. So we thought that we need to have the agility in organization to face whatever it comes, because we know that the world is changing so rapidly. Today we have good examples about it. And finally, it's good old-fashioned, we can do better. We were sure that we had inconsistencies, overlappings, and we really knew that we could do better. So we decided to start this. So about as I mentioned before, the agile organization is today like the paradigm in the organization. It's quite a trend. I'm sure you heard of it. It's everywhere. So it's a Harvard Business Review talking about the agile enterprise. McKinsey has done a very insightful, and I recommend you to take a look. It's very, very good about how companies are moving from the pyramidal, old-fashioned, hierarchical organization into much more like a circular or a cell organization. It's pretty much what we have implemented. Interesting enough, we found this after we did most of our evolution. So it was a little bit of discovery, but quite a reassuring one. And it's everywhere. I mean, this is only from this week, so you can see the Agile is everywhere, you name it. Every publication, organization and publication is talking about agility. Not only in the, let's say, HR organizational literature, but also many progressive companies are going in that way. We have been heavily inspired by Spotify, and I recommend you to, they have in YouTube a fantastic series of videos about their culture, how they are organized. It was very inspiring to us. But also Netflix with this very good book about building a culture of freedom and responsibility, and so and so and so. Probably Holacracy and Zappos were kind of the pioneers a few years ago. Now many companies are joining this trend. And I just mentioned just a few of them. There's much more. Probably some of your companies should be here too. So this was kind of the inspiration we got when we started this path. But I said to you that I wanted to talk to you about our findings. So let's go more down to earth, more pragmatic. So what does it mean, the agile model for a sourcing company like Kiabi? So this is our recipe, or the components of the collaborative organization that I'm going to present to you one by one. But these are the 5 key elements. So we have gathered a team of experts under product category organization, different skills all together in one team. They are working collaboratively, so there are no hierarchical reporting lines within the cell teams. They work in autonomy within a framework. Of course, we have a framework, but they work with 100% autonomy. They drive their business, and we encourage a decentralized decision-making in the company. Of course, because we have drastically reduced the middle management layer. We don't have the good old-fashioned middle management. So we need to find new solutions for human needs like career, development, training. So we go much more into a self-development model. I will talk to you about it. When we put the cursor and the ownership in the person. So I am responsible for my own development. What the company is doing for you is creating an environment where you can cherry pick the resources that you might need. It's no longer just going to your manager like we lived in the past or when we started our careers. And finally, no hierarchical middle management. So we have fewer but more senior leaders. And they are impacting in the teams in a different way that they used to do in the past. So let me present you a little bit more in these 5 key components of the collaborative organization in Kiabi. So the first thing is the team of experts. So in the past, we used to have 3 divisions or 3, like we had the buying or the procurement, we call. We had the merchandising, and we had the technical service. And they had different organizations, different competing commitments sometimes, different priorities, and they were always struggling with each other. Of course, trying to do the best they could, but because they were different leaders, different reporting lines, different competing commitments. So we decided to break that. So we put all in one team. They work together, as I said, in a product category management. And they are end-to-end responsible for their own product category. They have all the competences to make any decision making, and they are empowered to make these decisions. We will see later on a little bit how. And very important, they have common goals. So we believe that it is a team sport. So they win together or they lose together. Either they achieve the common goals or they don't. So there is no individual winners in the cell. It's a team sport. And we have very clearly changed the variable criteria in the compensation and benefits, so to make it clear message for the teams. Number 1, team of experts. Number 2, working collaboratively. So there is no hierarchy in the cell. We have, no one is reporting to no one. Everybody has different responsibilities, different missions. We work a lot trying to make clear roles. We reviewed and communicated across individuals and teams every job description in the company. So everybody has her own scope of responsibility. So it's not about if I am a junior merchandiser or a senior merchandiser or a merchandising manager. I have different responsibilities and I am accountable for that. And I contribute to that to the team. However, because there is no hierarchical manager, probably the obvious question is it a consensual exercise? It's not. It's nothing consensual. We ask everybody to give and receive feedback, interact with each other, but every task has a task owner, and this person is the final decision maker. What happens is along the product development, the task owner evolves. He's a different task owner in different moments. He's the one who takes the lead. Of course, we ask them to work collaboratively, but at the end of the day, they are the final decision maker, and it helps the team to move forward. And finally, they are co-responsible for the team performance and the objectives achievement. When they need, I said to you, and I will later come back to you about this, that we have fewer but senior managers, but let's say there's 20-80, like 80% of the times they manage, they don't need to escalate, they are able to find their own solutions, make compromises, move the business forward. But when they need, of course, they can escalate, and leaders are there if they have to. Let's move to the third component, so the autonomy. So we use a sports team analogy. Of course, no analogy is perfect, right? But we believe that there is a frame provided by the company's strategy, the roadmap, the policies of the company. But then within this frame, they operate with 100% autonomy. So they are empowered for make decentralized decision making. They can make decisions on the business on a daily basis. They are self-organized, meaning that different organizations and different processes are possible. So we have reduced a lot the standardization in the company. What we ask every cell is to be connected, and we have formal moments where they share best practices. So with what we have seen is that a new virtuous standardization has been created, because by sharing best practices, they have start cherry picking. This is working well in this cell. Okay, now all the cells are working the same. But it's not a top-down decision. It is a sharing and a virtuous standardization based on best practices, period. So let's move to number 4. So the self-development. As I mentioned before, no hierarchy, no manager. So I don't have a manager to go to on a daily basis. I don't have a weekly touch base with my manager. So how about, as I mentioned before, I am a human being. I have needs. I need my personal development. I need to find resources to nourish me, to help me grow. So we have. Well, I will come back to this later on. So the managers still in the teams, they have this, but they have been trained to be coaches. So just to give you a pragmatic example, we have in the cells senior merchandisers and merchandising managers. But the senior merchandisers don't report to the merchandising managers. However, because they have different scope of responsibility, and the managers are senior doers. We don't have in the cells pure managers. Everybody has a scope and a part and a share in the business, and everyone is hands-on dealing with business on a day-to-day basis. But of course, we have more senior people that are the managers, and we train them to be coaches, so they are asked to provide guidance, advice, inspire, federate, influence their teams. So it's not anymore giving instructions. Now it's about influencing, sharing, motivating. They work under a 360 performance review. So every team member engage in the performance review of each other. So they know that eventually their performance review is going to be based on how the teams assess their performance and how they work. Do they work as a team players? Do they deliver? Do they respect the timelines? Do they listen to others or not? And a fear that we have at the beginning that it became like more loose, like people would be more flexible and less challenging. It's actually the opposite. Everybody in the team knows who's working and who's not working. Everybody knows who's doing the extra mile and who's not. Now it's more transparent, and teams give this, and they have been trained, as you can see, because some key trainings are very key. They give feedback. We train them to give and receive feedback, to be assertive, to communicate in a non-violent way with the non-violent communication, and to make decisions. So we have used the McKinsey's model for decision making, and how to work collaboratively based on the MBTI that probably is about embracing diversity, how we all operate differently. So we have tried to structure a series of key trainings to give them a common background, a common way to interact for this collaborative working to be possible, because not everybody is equipped for that, but we train them to do like this. So we move into a self-development model. We have created an open online training platform. So it's an open bar. It's an open bar. So you decide if you want to develop one skill, you can go to the open training platform, you sign in for the trainings and you join them. No one needs to validate that for you. You are the one. It's open bar, and you decide if you want to do 6 trainings or 1 training or no one, and it's fine. You are the one defining your pace. Also, everybody has a 70-20-10 development model, meaning 70 is on-the-job training, 20 is feedback from others, and finally 10 is training. It's a model about development that we have implemented. Everybody has his or her own. They are co-development sessions, and they can rely on internal coaches I mentioned before, and the mentors who are the senior leaders. We have a strong internal mobility, so people gets promoted in this collaborative organization. Merchandisers get promoted to senior merchandiser gets promoted to merchandising manager. So promotion is there, set evolutions are there, people grow and have their careers, and it's based on best performers. So best performers by the team, they are the ones who are getting the promotion and larger slices of the business to manage. And finally, the fifth and final component, I anticipate a little bit, is the senior leaders. So we don't have middle managers, but we have senior leaders because, but it's not one person for team. We don't have one senior leader taking care of one team. Sorry, because it's another sports team analogy, even if I'm not very sporty myself. It's like in the American football, right? They have defensive coaches, offensive coaches. So we believe the same. So we have a team category, cross-functional, working, and they can rely on the buying director for buying purposes, or the merchandising director when it comes to something related to merchandising, or in the technical director if they something. So they can rely on different leaders. It's critical that these senior leaders are aligned and coordinated. So the worst case is that they give different directions or so. Something we have worked a lot is about having a strong, solid, well-aligned team of leaders. But they are senior leaders. They get that. They get the need about we need to be consistent with the teams, otherwise we can lose them. And finally, coming back to the development, because they are senior people in the organization, they know how to do the networking. They know how to do career advice, and they can be mentors for these teams. Because sometimes when I work with a middle manager, maybe he or she doesn't have the seniority, the experience, or the organization savvy to how to navigate and to have a successful career. But senior leaders do. They have the experience, they have the maturity. So this is why probably they have fewer interactions about people's development. Most of the people's development is happening in a self-development model, but they have fewer interactions but more meaningful interaction when they really have effective career advice, networking, etc. to the people. So people are actually growing. These are our model, right? Our agile model, pragmatically and a little bit down to earth. I wanted to share with you also some key findings and based on some mistakes that we have made along the way, and some KPIs about what's been the impact. Because if it is not about, if it doesn't improve the performance of the company, hey, we stop. We are not doing this just for the sake of doing it. So some key findings that we have identified is that, first of all, the journey is as important as the destination. So for us, had to be a bottom-up process. So we engage like 30 ambassadors, 110 people who are directly involved in this process. We hold many workshops, brainstormings, assessment meetings, focus groups around the organization. So it was something that happened organically. It was not a top-down, perfectly crafted or designed model. It was like molded along the way by the teams, and because they were engaged in the process, they embraced it. The second key finding was that we need solid principles, because there is a lot of challenges, questions along the way. Inconsistencies sometimes, because I mentioned before, sometimes we do deal with discrepancies, competing commitments, different doors. So we try to have solid principles that allows us to find the answer. So for us, we ask ourselves, what is more customer oriented? When we have to choose between two options, what is more simple? What is more cross-functional? And it helped us to find answers whenever we were dealing and finding difficult moments, difficult times. So have agreed solid principles is very important to navigate the difficult moments in the process. The third one is the change management. So it's again human nature. So we all fear change a little bit. The research say that younger generation are much more comfortable with change than we are. So sometimes we, like older generation, project our fears in the younger generation. They are much more comfortable with change, and they actually need this excitement about doing the things differently. But well, for us, the change management was very important. We dedicate a lot of time and energy to have a solid, extensive change management that could provide structure to these changes. So we work on the people, process, tools. So we had a training plan, a communication strategy. We did a lot of listening to the people. We reviewed our processes. So what meetings were we going to have? We did a RACI to define who is responsible, accountable, who should be and so on. We reviewed the job description. We had a guidebook for every employee to refer to. And finally, we try to evolve with IT developments about the tools, because it's about collaboration. And we are a multicultural and multi-country company. So we have people in the same cells sit in Shanghai, Dhaka, Delhi, and Hong Kong. So they need to be connected. So there was a lot of IT development around how can we support this collaborative virtual collaboration. And finally, and most important to me, is that it's an endless, continuous improvement process. So it's never ended. It's continuous, it's open, because it's a living organism. And we hold, again, the action item, the pragmatic action item. We hold a monthly cross-cell meeting where we have one representative of each cell. And this monthly meeting is for fine-tuning, sharing practices, identifying common needs. And the top management of the company sponsor in these meetings to make sure that we really listen to them and do something about it. And finally, and I finish my presentation with this, the last key finding, it's all about performance. So again, if it doesn't help us to improve our performance, it's not working. What we have found is very reassuring. We have been working like this for, as I mentioned to you, for 2 years, and we have increased consistently some key KPIs in the efficiency of the company. So we kind of feel reassured, and to continue, we kind of feel that we are in the right way, and we have to continue because it's really working. Thank you very much.